Hitler was forced to send German forces to North Africa. An offensive Blitzkrieg with tanks and air support like that used in Europe was needed to turn the war in Germany's favor. To that end, the Führer created a new unit, the Deutsches Afrika Korps, whose corps consisted of 2 armored regiments, supported by infantry brigades and air squadrons. The leader of the corps was 49-year-old Erwin Rommel, who, in addition to being a loyal supporter of Hitler and a skilled military theorist, had also distinguished himself as a brave and enterprising leader of the 7th Panzer Division during the invasion of France. Rommel, who would become known as the Desert Fox, wasn't one to shy away from an attack, and was not easily intimidated by an enemy's superior numbers. He would need both attributes in North Africa. When he arrived on 12th of February, Rommel was shocked by what he found. Defeated Italian troops stumbled back to Tripoli on foot. Despair was plain on every face. Morale was as low as it could be, Rommel wrote later. If the Allies had chosen to attack Tripoli, there would have been nothing to stop their advance. "There is only one way to stop the rot," he told Hitler's aide, General Rudolf Schmundt, "to go on the offensive." Rommel immediately set about preparing his forces. The goal was to reach Egypt, take the strategically important Suez Canal, and then continue on to the Persian Gulf region to lay claim to its rich oil wells. But from the outset, the desert offered resistance. Immense clouds of reddish dust obscured all visibility. Often the wind was so strong that it was impossible to drive along the Via Balbo, the only modern coastal road. Sand streamed down the windscreen like water. We gasped for breath painfully through handkerchiefs held over our faces, and sweat poured off our bodies in the unbearable heat. Rommel wrote, describing a giant Ghibli sandstorm he experienced on one of his first days in North Africa. Despite the conditions, the Desert Fox soon began probing the enemy's resistance with limited attacks against small Allied forces. Sensing weakness, he struck in earnest. After driving 800 kilometers through the desert, on 3rd of April, the Afrika Korps occupied Benghazi, an important supply port on the way to Egypt. The Germans and Italians were as amazed as the Allies, whose intelligence services had learned that Hitler had refused to sanction an attack until the Afrika Korps had more men and vehicles. Rommel, however, had acted against Hitler's orders. "I took the risk against all orders and instructions, because the opportunity seemed favorable. No doubt it will all be pronounced good later, and they'll all say they'd have done exactly the same in my place," Rommel wrote in a letter to his wife Lucia the same day. "You will understand that I can't sleep for happiness," he added. Only Tobruk, a port city further along the coast, now lay between him and Egypt. Sandstorm delayed the attack on Tobruk. Tobruk itself was unremarkable, just a collection of scattered houses surrounded by dusty palm trees. However, the city was of great strategic value. In addition to possessing the area's best port, the only deep-water port between Tripoli and Alexandria, the city was also well suited as a launch point for forces intent on preventing an enemy from reaching Egypt. If the Germans could take Tobruk, their supplies would no longer have to travel several hundred kilometers from Tripoli by road, and the way would be open to Egypt. Rommel immediately decided to head towards the city, where the Allies, who had fled the attack on Benghazi, were now gathering. With a little luck, he would arrive before the Allies could fortify the city. However, the British were just as keen on defending Tobruk as the Germans were on occupying it. Winston Churchill advised General Sir Archibald Wavell, Commander-in-Chief of the British forces in the Middle East, that the city must be defended, to the death, without thought of retirement. On 9th of April, Australian Major General Sir Leslie Morshead arrived with his 9th Division, a force consisting of 6 infantry brigades, 4 artillery regiments, 2 anti-tank regiments, 75 anti-aircraft guns,